be wondering right now, can she hear me or see me? And the question answer is no, I cannot. But you are still a part of our conversation. So this is a webinar format, so it's not going to look like your normal format. We will communicate today through the chat box. If you do not see the chat box, hover at the bottom of your screen and you should see some icons there, including your mute button, your stop video button, everything like that. So go ahead and press on the chat icon because that is going to be how we communicate. So if you go ahead and click on that icon and leave me a message, I will be able to hear that. So and see that. So I see that Marge has already done that. Hi, Marge. How are you today? The reason that we are doing the Zoom webinar format is because we are expecting more people than usual to be on here. And so we did not want to get interference with people's microphones and cameras and audio and everything like that. So we decided that we would go ahead and try the webinar format. So keep leaving me a message in that chat box to let me know that indeed you are able to see and hear. And while you do that, I am going to make sure that the people on Facebook can see us as well. It's a lot going on here, I gotta admit. Okay. Yes, so, okay. We're gonna address the comments in the chat box as I'll try and address them as I go along today, or I'll address them all at the end. So as you can probably imagine, trying to reopen the church is hard. So no one has ever lived through a pandemic like this. And I keep joking to people that I never took a Pandemic 101 class in seminary. So this is new for me too. We also just have the fact that information continues to evolve about what best practices are. What is not evolving, what is definitely not evolving, is our desire to keep our members, our friends, our staff, and our community safe and healthy. Your physical, mental, and spiritual health is our top priority. We know that some people are eager to return, and we know that some people are hesitant to return. As you can imagine, it is tricky to find a balance between these two groups. As we try and find that balance, I ask that you continue to keep us in your prayer. Us being your elected elders and deacons, as well as your staff. We will more than likely need to make tweaks to our plan as we go along, so we also need patience. The staff has heard me say more than once that we all need to be flexible. What I'm going to present to you today is just a working draft that we talked about in our staff meeting yesterday, and we will take your comments and concerns as we continue to tweak the plan, discuss it at staff again Tuesday, and then my hope is that the session can approve a plan on Tuesday. But even then, I am working under the assumption that we will continue to tweak and evolve and what have you as we go here. Ultimately, you need to decide what is right for you about returning in person or continuing to participate virtually. Whatever you decide, we support you and we respect your decision. You know your situation best. You know what is right for you. In the same vein, every church is different. So what's right for First Presbyterian Church is not necessarily what is right for the church down the street. Every context is different. So while I am keeping my finger on the pulse of what other churches in our community are doing, we're ultimately going to make a decision based on what is right for First Presbyterian Church. So I'm going to share with you the results of the survey that we took. So give me a moment here to pull up my screen, because we wanted to know, just first and foremost, how you're doing. So I am going to share that with you, and I am hopeful that you can see that. Okay. If you are having trouble seeing that, you can leave me a comment, though I'll have trouble seeing that the way the screen is right now. So first and foremost, we wanted to know just how you are doing. And you can see here, we asked a number of different questions. I'll also say that we received 81 responses. We think that is a pretty good response rate based on who opens our weekly emails. We received about a third back. So that's pretty good, I think. Anyways, just kind of going down, the one thing that I really want to point out, because we're going to talk about this later, is the question about mental health and also about physical health. The green bar, so you know, is very concerned. The blue bar is somewhat concerned, and the yellow bar is not concerned at all. So these are the different questions I asked, and as you can see, when we get to mental health and personal health, things start to flip, and people are very concerned or somewhat concerned about those things. I jotted down 60% of the respondents are very concerned or somewhat concerned about their mental health or anxiety, and 77% are concerned about their physical health. So I'm going to just keep on going down. These are just more questions about, you know, childcare, job training, help with school children, what have you. Not too much of a shock in those answers given the demographics of the congregation. We asked how have you used any of our online offerings since the stay-at-home order. Most everybody who answered the survey said that they were using our online offerings. That really shouldn't come as a surprise, because of course you had to access this through your weekly e-news and email. So unfortunately, the people who weren't responding to this were those who have not been able to access our online offerings. We're not quite sure how big a number that is. We do know that we mail about 85 copies of the sermon each week. But some of those folks who get a copy are still able to watch online. They just like to get a text copy of the sermon. But still, 85 is a pretty big number. So we're going to try and address that as we slowly come back together this summer. Almost 100% have been watching our live stream. And then we also have a number of, percentages, pretty high percentages for the other things that we have been offering. What kind of surprised me was the Zoom SIP and fellowship number and the Presbyterian 101. Both of those hovered around 30%. And I only point that out because those are two new things that we have been offering during the time of being shut down. The other group mostly responded that they had also taken part in officer training. So we did all of our deacon and elder training online this year through Zoom. How well did our online offerings meet your needs? We seem to do pretty well with this. About 46% said extremely well. Another 46% said very well. And for those that were not so well, mostly that had to do with difficulty with technology, or at least one person said they just don't have a computer, so no access to a computer. All right, so I'm going to keep going down. If you didn't access our online offerings, why not? Again, the vast majority said that, didn't apply to them because they did, but again, didn't know there were any, no computer or tablet or what have you. If you are having trouble, by the way, for some reason getting our e-news, let Tony Belton know. If you don't have Tony's email, you can send that to me and I will forward it to him and we'll make sure you get that weekly email. Sometimes there are things you need to do on your end to get that so it doesn't end up in your spam box. So let's talk about the one that you're probably interested in, and that is how likely are you to return when we open? So 48% of you said you are very likely to return to the building when we open. And the likely was 27%, 28%, and unlikely 24%. So this is where I want to talk a little bit about those questions we asked in the very beginning, because I was able to drill down further than these answers show on paper. And what I found was that those who are very likely or likely to return to the building are much more concerned about their mental health, and those who are unlikely to return are much more concerned about their physical health. So again, that is the balance that we are trying to find as we return. Let's see, keep going down. What would make you feel safe in returning to the building? So again, we want to make sure that you feel safe when you return. People required to wear masks is close to 72%. And I was specific when drafting the survey in that I wanted to use the word required, not suggested, but required to wear masks. And 72% of you said that would make you feel safe. So we have discussed that as a staff, what that would look like. We'll get to that in a little bit. Hand sanitizer at every entrance. 72% of you said hand sanitizer at every entrance. And we are able to do that. We have hand sanitizer here in the building. Social distance requirements strictly enforced. 76% of you said that, strictly enforced social distance. We have walked through the building and we're going to talk a little bit about what that will look like. Extra cleaning of high touch areas, again, 72%. And the people who responded other, some people said they won't feel safe until there's a vaccine. Others commented that they are eager to return when they feel that it's safe to return. And a couple people noted that the mental health to them is very, very important. So that's where we are. First Church has been offering online classes and meetings during the closure. How likely are you to continue accessing classes and meetings? Many of you said that you're very likely to continue accessing those. Another 27% said likely. Those that said unlikely at 21%. From what I could gauge by those, the unlikely group combined with the comments is that they just really prefer being in person. No matter what we do, we are going to continue offering our in-person events online. So we are working on that. I seem to be having trouble getting to Facebook Live, and I'm not sure why. So my apologies to anybody who's trying to get on Facebook. Okay, so that is the survey in a nutshell. Okay, and hopefully you all can still hear me and you are still watching. All right, so I'm going to pull up our plans for reopening here that I have. Give me a second. Okay. So, hold on. Okay, So let's talk about what it's going to look like. I want to say that what we talk about today will not be implemented until June 1. So we will continue to be virtual through the month of May, with the exception of worship on May 24th, which will be held at Trinity Presbyterian Church, where my husband Terry serves. They have a huge parking lot and a huge outdoor field. So we are easily able to social distance. So hopefully you have gotten word about that already through emails. And if you want to come, encourage you to come. It's going to be a great service Memorial Day weekend at 11 o'clock at Trinity. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's talk about Sunday morning. I think as we all, realize it's going to look different around here. It is not going to look like what it looked like on March 8th, when that was the last time we worshiped together, if you can believe it, was March 8th. Anyways, we have a couple of proposals that we are putting on the table. The first is to have an in-person worship in McKay Hall, probably at 9:30. More of you said that you were likely to attend a service at 9:30 than you were at 9 o'clock. I don't think I showed that to you on the survey. Very few of you were likely to attend a service at 8 a.m. or some sort of Wednesday prayer service. So we've kind of taken those off the table. Anyways, so we're thinking a 9:30 service in McKay Hall. And the reason why we're thinking about McKay Hall is that we can easily space chairs apart in McKay Hall. And we have a projector in McKay Hall, so we do not need to worry about hymnals or papers and things like that. Because I think, as you all know, we're not supposed to be sharing papers and hymnals, and touching services becomes really important. So we have the projector, we have a sound system in there. We're able to socially distance the chairs, and we are also able to clean the chairs with disinfectant because they're vinyl. So all of that works in our favor. Now you may be thinking, I do not want to worship in McKay Hall. The best I can tell you is that while we think about worshiping in McKay Hall, as I shared with the worship staff the other day, I said, you know what, we need to just embrace the difference. And so that's kind of the theme that we're playing off of, is how can we embrace the difference and embrace this new normal that we're all going to, be living in as we start to resume life. I am hopeful that we can provide a really meaningful worship service in McKay Hall. And it might be a little give and take. You might think of it as kind of a worshipful education type hour. So during the sermon, maybe there'll be some opportunity to talk and reflect about what you hear, things like that. We've talked about music during that service and what that will look like. We are well aware that hymn singing and congregational singing is off the table for the near future. So what will music look like in McKay Hall? We are blessed with great musicians here at the church. So I can assure you that whatever we do, we are hopeful that it will be a quality offering. Let's see. Let's talk about the 11 o'clock service in the sanctuary. So this is where it gets really tricky, because believe it or not, in our large sanctuary, when we start marking off 6 feet around people, we only have 40 pews available to us. And unless you live with somebody, you really need to sit alone and keep your physical distance from that person. So we only have 40 pews available. We also have a couple of other hurdles in the sanctuary, and that there's no projection system in there. So we get into the whole issue of how do we project liturgy? How do we project an order of service and things like that? There's a way that we can work around those, but it gets a little difficult. We also have talked about the need to remove all of the hymnals and all of the papers in the racks, so people don't, touch them. And ultimately, though, what we have a problem with is that we cannot disinfect our pews without ruining them. The cleaners that we use are just too harsh. So what we are putting on the table right now is that the 11 o'clock service that we live stream will continue to be a live stream only, not an in-person service. And I know that that may be disappointing to some of you, but again, as we work through the logistics of that, it gets really tricky how to work out how to do a service with people in the sanctuary. So again, we're trying to strike that balance by offering the in-person in McKay Hall at 9:30, but also offering the live stream service at 11 o'clock. So that's kind of where we are right now with that. I'd be interested to hear your comments. So again, if you have thoughts about that, leave those in the chat box so we can talk about that. I should also note that everything that I'm talking about today for Sunday morning will be sort of a 6-week plan to get us through mid-July, and then we'll evaluate how things are going in mid-July. So this is not forever and a day. We're just talking about through mid-July. On Sundays, we want to ask people to access the first floor only. That helps our housekeeping staff tremendously. During peak times, Shannon and Brandy will be here to wipe down bathrooms. In between usage, we won't use any name tags, we won't use any paper bulletins. And as far as receiving the offering, there'll just be kind of a common plate there that people can put their offering in. And the doors, the theater door and the day school door, the north door, will be manned by greeters who will open the doors for you. So we aren't worrying about touching those surfaces multiple times. And I think I mentioned that there will not be congregational singing. During the week, committee meetings can start meeting in person, but we will also continue to utilize Zoom. I took part in a meeting last night, and as they were talking about their June meeting, they have decided to do that in the Zoom format only. Again, that's what they all feel safe with, but for those committees that maybe want to meet in person, again, they have to offer that Zoom option, which we can do both in McKay Hall by hooking a laptop up to the projector, and we can also, of course, do that in the session meeting room. We can safely physically distance 10 people in the session meeting room. Not all of you can see the TV, but you can be physically distanced with 10. We will slowly phase in our outside groups starting in July, so our AA, our NA, and things like that. And the reason why we're waiting to phase those groups in is because we just want to make sure that we kind of have our own house in order and feel comfortable with what we're doing before we have outsiders come into the building. During the week, the day school will be confined to the day school door. That's the door by the playground, the north door. We are asking everybody else who uses the church to use the theater entrance and just stay away from the day school door. We are planning on having a desk there with somebody to greet you when you come in. They'll have a walkie, staff will have a walkie. They can call us, let us know that you are here, and we can go down and meet you. And this is something that we talked a lot about at staff, because if we have people with mobility issues and that becomes a problem, we do have an alternative plan. for where parents could drop off in the day school and the Webster Street entrance, but for many reasons that is not the preferred entrance for the day school. But we're trying to keep both of the groups apart. The day school is planning on opening June 1st. Jennifer Shaw has put a tremendous amount of work into her reopening plan. The day school kids and staff will be isolated to the day school area and the playground. Those classrooms will be kept intact. They will not mix and mingle. They will not be in other parts of the building. They aren't doing any sort of trips or things like that, field trips this summer. So we are trying to keep both of the groups as separate as possible. We are talking about downsizing our hours of operation, again, for the first 6 weeks. The advice that we have received from Parkview is to continue to allow staff to work remotely. And so that's an option that I want to provide our staff. So we are talking about having office hours on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 10 to noon. The day school will operate on its normal hours from 7 to 5:30. But the church staff will Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 2. We do have some staff who have concerns about coming back to the building, and so I'm working with them, and they may choose to work different hours than that. So we'll let you all know as those hours are decided, so that nobody comes down and says, "Hey, I was expecting to see somebody, and where are they?" One of the things that I want to start, especially to help with those of you that just need to get out and you need to be with other people, is a once a week sort of just a lunch get together, a physically distanced lunch. So you bring your own lunch and we can sit in McKay Hall and just chat and share company. If it's a beautiful day like today, you could bring your own chair and we could be outside in the courtyard. I'm staring at it right now. It is absolutely gorgeous out there. But this is just, again, it's just to help with everybody's mental health, to get people out, feel safe, be in a safe environment, and just have a chance to talk with other people. So that's something that I want to start up in June. I'm not quite sure what day, probably Wednesday or Thursday. But anyways, that's in the works. So hopefully you'll come, and I won't eat lunch alone. But again, don't come if you don't feel comfortable. Building. So we're making sure we have automatic lights in all of the bathrooms, no drinking fountains in usage. There will be certain things you'll see when you come in with, certain sections of bathrooms kind of taped off so you don't use them. So we keep 6 feet apart. And this is the tricky one, only one person in the elevator at a time. We talked about that. You can't keep social distance in the elevator. There won't be any coffee carts, there won't be any hospitality time, and there won't be any sort of food events, again, for the foreseeable future. What else is on my list? I believe that is everything. I talked about the office hours. We will only have one person in the workroom at a time. We will continue to clean the surfaces in the office and workroom after every user. We ask that when you come into the building, you maintain a safe distance at the office window as well. So let's talk a little bit about masks. Masks seem to be the great debate these days. Are they good? Are they not good? Maybe some of you don't feel comfortable using them. I know I still feel somewhat awkward using them. We talked a lot about this at staff yesterday. The feeling is because of the current CDC guidelines that through June, certainly until June 14th, we are asking everybody who comes to the building to wear a mask. And I've asked the staff to wear a mask, except when they're in their office alone. If both people are wearing masks, the likelihood of transmission of the disease lowers a great deal. So that's the current CDC recommendation. So we're asking everybody to do that through June 14th. If you don't have a mask, don't worry. We have personalized First Presbyterian Church masks with our logo on their way. Hopefully they'll be here by May 24th, so I can show them to all of you. Hopefully you know that Tom did his first Facebook Live show, and it was a great success. He has another one planned on Monday, and he has a couple more planned throughout the summer. The theater season is again, flexibility is the name of the game. So if he can open in August, he will, with the Shakespeare show that was planned for spring. And if he can't, then we'll continue to do things online. Things have been a challenge during this time, but the staff has been great in meeting those challenges. Just been super to work with. And, you know, challenges can also be opportunities. So you never know. Some of these different ways that we're learning how to work, different things we're doing, like a theater on Facebook or a service in McKay Hall, they could turn out to be great things. You just never know. So that's where we are. So I'm going to try and go through and answer some of your questions here. All right, so Nancy wrote, glad to have the 9:30, understand the live stream. So some people may not understand why we won't be singing. Can you give a brief description as to why that needs to be? So the current thinking with singing is that when you sing, you kind of have a lot of droplets that come out of your mouth. So some sort of national singing choir organization, Vaughn could tell you what it is, has come out with a recommendation that people not sing in large groups. Really 3 people is kind of the max with how many should be singing, especially when you're in an enclosed area. So we actually will sing on the 24th because we will be outside. And I have asked Vaughn if he thinks that's safe, and he has said yes, he does, especially since hopefully people will be wearing masks. But the idea is that congregational singing, there's just too much opportunity for the droplets that I come out of my mouth when I'm singing. If I would have COVID to then spread to other people. So that's why. So Marge said, keeping 11 a.m. a live stream service only makes a lot of sense. I like the idea of using the K Hall for an in-church service. Thank you. A lot of thought has been put, will masks be required when we're in the building? So I answered that and said, yes, they will be. I don't see a whole lot of questions other than those, unless I am missing something, which hopefully I'm not. I too am learning technology as we go. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Anything you heard here that you didn't like, that concerns you a great deal, or you're like, I'm moving too quickly? Go ahead and let us know now. Anything? All right, you're welcome, Carol. Hi, Cassandra. I'm glad you joined us. Okay, anything else that anybody wants to ask? Otherwise, I have the feeling this did not get to Facebook, but I'm gonna have to do this again on Facebook. You're welcome, Anne. We are all learning to use technology. Oh, Ann Pittman, thank you for the reminder. So we will not do in-person communion in June or July. Everything that I have read about communion is that the servers need to have on masks, they need to have on gloves. It just gets really, really dicey when it comes to communion. I know that communion is really important, but we are not going to do it in person in June or July. So we will do it virtually at the 11 o'clock service, but we will not do it at the in-person service at 9:30. So hopefully you'll understand that. If you're old school Presbyterian like me, you probably grew up only having it once a quarter. So we'll kind of be old school here for a while at the 9:30. Okay, you're welcome. Appreciate the thought and discussion behind these proposed ideas and plans. You're welcome. It's, yeah, we're trying to figure it out as we go. Let's see, anything else? Otherwise, Emily saw that this was recording, just posted to the Facebook page. I could do that. I also can't answer questions in real time. We'll see. I don't know. This is all new to me. Okay, all of this sounds great. Will all of this be summarized and put on the church website? Yes, we will somehow do that. So this is recording what I'm doing with you here right now, and we'll figure out how to post it. That's not my area of expertise, but I will talk to Tony about that, and we'll provide a link in the e-news. We have a YouTube channel page, and so we could post it there. We'll see. We'll figure that out, Chuck. All right, you're welcome, Jill. All right, we're trying to think it all through. If I don't see any other comments, then I guess I will go ahead and end this. It is a beautiful day, so I'm sure some of you want to get outside and enjoy the beautiful day today. All right, I don't see anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess declare that we're done. If you need anything, shoot me an email, text, whatever works for you. And I really appreciate your time and today and thoughtfulness and being a part of this. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.